This has been a presentation from Comedy Central.
Back to videos that take the longest but are the most fun to make. In these types of videos, I take a look at a network who aren't entirely an animation focused channel or maybe a programming block, or look at an entire animation catalog and give some of the history behind some of their creation, the creators, and overall give my opinion on literally every single animated show for the network. Today I'm going to be looking at Comedy Central, whose animated shows have been interesting to say the least. But before we get started, let's lay down some ground rules first. In this video, I'm going to be looking at shows either created entirely by Comedy Central themselves, or shows that are so heavily synonymous with the DNA of Comedy Central. So before anyone sends me any messages, no, I am not going to be looking at Futurama in this video. It is heavily syndicated with Comedy Central, and Comedy Central has produced new episodes for the series after its cancellation. I'm not covering this because 1, I'm lazy, and 2, while Comedy Central's run of the show isn't what I would say garbage, the quality of the show compared to the Fox run is very apparent. And all, if not most, of the quotable and memorable moments and occurrences happen in the Fox version, so let's hold that one off to let's say a Fox look back. Our first show we'll be looking back at is Dr. Katz Professional Therapist, all the way back in 1995. Dr. Katz Professional Therapist is a Comedy Central animated show made by comedian and actor Jonathan Katz. The setup of the show is about a therapist named Dr. Katz, and the show is mostly about his day job of him being a therapist and listening to his patients' problems and issues, and sometimes coming up with a solution for how to help or at least adhere to some of these problems. This Comedy Central look back is starting off pretty strong because Dr. Katz is really good. Dr. Katz is downright one of the funniest and most interesting adult cartoons that exist. The reason the show to me is so good is that the show just has really great and natural dialogue for the characters, which the show achieves this good level of characters bouncing off each other is because most of the show is just a form of improv called retroscripting. Basically, a retroscript is kind of like improv, but the actors are given a vague outline, but pretty much the rest of the following dialogue is all ad-libbed. I really do like some really good ad-libbing in TV shows and movies. When ad-libbing is done right, especially in comedy, it adds a little bit more to the work itself. And some good improvised scenes sometimes are just better.
Hey Mia, you better hide your baby or... I'm just playing.
You better hide that big ass forehead.
Like this scene from Indiana Jones. Sure, you can have this really elaborate scene with choreography and Indy doing all this dumb shit with his whip, but you know what'd be funnier? Using the take where Harrison Ford just stops giving a fuck altogether. And when it's done wrong, you get some of the lame shit of how most modern comedies in Hollywood do it. One of Dr. Katz's other strengths are a list of talent and guests that appear on the show. A lot of comedians that a lot of us really liked or would come to like in the late future appear on this show as patients and provide their own individual sense of comedy. Like Ray Romano, Conan O'Brien, Jeff Goldblum. Even Dave Chappelle appeared on the show. Well, at this point, getting a hold of Dave was probably easy as fuck because this was before he became the crazy black legend he would soon become before the Chappelle show. Speaking of people no one really knew or really gave a shit till later, H. John Benjamin's in this show, and he plays a recurring role as Dr. Katz's son, and for once I wasn't able to immediately recognize him due to his voice being the same in literally every production he's in. It's actually kind of refreshing to hear him sound differently, though it's probably just a 20-year age gap. One of the other points of interest, and if you haven't already died of a seizure, is the style in which Dr. Katz is animated in, which is called squiggle vision. Squiggle vision is a method of computer animation in which the outlines and shapes of the characters have this sort of wiggle-like look to them. But you may ask, why did they choose this method? It's not really that appealing. It's relatively easier and more affordable to make cartoons in this kind of style. It's very obvious that the show is made on the cheaper side just by looking at it visually, and also you gotta remember this is like 1995, mid-90s Comedy Central. They wouldn't gain any real true notoriety at some later show on this list that like no one gives a shit about. And shows like The Daily Show, Chappelle Show, Tosh.0, and not a popular show by any means, but this is the only time I'll get to shout it out, so fuck it, Nathan for you.
How the terms I'm going to put in my pocket.
Well, no, we don't want it in your pocket.
We do want it in my pocket. Please. Please, you're in my office.
Basically, the network isn't raking in cash, so shitty limited animation for you. The show reuses a lot of the same shots and expressions as I kept going further. The style is really up to you, I don't mind it, but if someone said that the style of animation made their eyes kinda hurt, I guess I can't really blame them. But being that Dr. Katz is mostly just comedians doing bits and is mostly just dialogue, and the lack of any true importance to the visuals, you could probably just listen to the audio of the show and still have a good time with it. That's what I did. I mostly did this while I was watching the show, just sitting at my computer or just hook up an extra TV and play a game while simultaneously watching it. It's a great way to waste time, energy, and just overall productivity. The last we would ever hear of anything from Dr. Katz is this weird live-action anniversary episode of Dr. Katz with the original crew, and some of the audio files are being put up on Audible. Anyways, Dr. Katz, really good show. I recommend it. It got 6 seasons, 81 episodes, 81 just like Kobe, and it's really funny, and it's just cool to see that due to Dr. Katz's success, we would later get more weird, funny, low-budget animated shows to follow in its footsteps like home movies, which is also something I suggest. Well, a little bit premature, especially for the start of this retrospect type of video, but now it's time for the big boy in town. South Park, the aborted fetus made lovingly by Matt Stone and Trey Parker. Matt Stone and Trey Parker being a duo of writers, producers, and directors. The creation of South Park is a very interesting tale. Basically, South Park was possibly even the first viral internet video on the web back when computers looked like...
Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. Wait. Get the hell out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
The shorts that went viral was the pilot episode of South Park, both named The Christmas Spirit, a crudely animated stop-motion short made out of construction paper. And this short contained all the crude humor, explicit dialogue, and violence that remains and further expanded upon in South Park. This short went viral mostly because, one, even today, as crude as it is, the short is still pretty funny, even with all its flaws. And also, no one's really seen anything kind of like this back then, so what people would apparently do with it was, they would copy the short, and it became circulated and shared on VHS tapes all over the country. People who were apparently making these tapes would also put their names on the creation when the producers and executives would ask who made this, and that was kind of shitty. But because of this viral video, this gave Matt and Trey the opportunity to expand that show that people love and make it into a successful TV show, or go back to being basically homeless writers. And they sure didn't miss their chance. South Park was a cultural phenomenon. This is literally the show that made Comedy Central more viable and gave it a little bit more life. TV subscriptions of people requesting the channel skyrocketed because of the show. News articles, cover magazines were made because of South Park. This was the biggest animated television home run since The Simpsons. But enough sucking South Park's dick for its accolades. I mean, we all know it's popular. It made it into like a part of like a Tiger Woods game for some reason. I mean, that's already a testament how popular people think it is. But what are my thoughts on South Park? I don't really care for it as a lot of my friends and what majority of my fans think. I think from the parts of the show I have seen, I think that the show holds a good level of quality, especially with the writing, because South Park has never really visually impressed. I'll expand upon why the visuals are the way they are in a minute, but nobody watches South Park for the quality of the art. If they do, they're probably laughing at the absurdness of them, which is honestly kind of funny at times. I'm here, and a lot of us are here for the characters and Matt and Trey's commentary on certain socio-political events, celebrities, idiocy, and just stupid shit that happens within the world. And Matt and Trey's bizarre way of tackling some of these subjects is actually some of the funniest shit. They take something and take it to either the darkest and most absurd degree, and the best thing is, for the most part, barring some things, they get away with it. Like, no real repercussions ever really occurred due to them being, quite frankly, being assholes. I guess celebrity agents and these famous figures have realized that if we make a comment or retaliate, they are just gonna make next week's episode about us. It's not even worth it. That's awesome. There's like total creative freedom. And just speaking of the characters of South Park, Matt and Trey has created a good smorgasbord of iconic and likable characters within the show to like the main group of kids, Stan, Kyle, Kenny, and Cartman. Stan being the most normal kid out of the group, Kyle the Jew, the butt of many Jew jokes, and Kenny, the poor kid who's unfortunately has the shittiest of luck when it comes to staying alive. One of my favorite characters is Eric Cartman, the fat piece of shit in the show. Eric, I feel, is my favorite child to follow, and many others who watch the show because of his stupid, misguided, and bullshit antics that he finds himself in. And overall, his selfish nature and pure ash-holishness is just entertaining to see. Dude makes a guy eat his parents just for like 20 bucks. Though my favorite character in the show is Stan's dad, Randy Marsh. A good contrast to Stan's more normalness. Stan's dad does some of the funniest and dumb shit within the show, like giving himself testicular cancer just so he can legally smoke weed. And South Park has made a great list of memorable and one-off and recurring characters within its universe. And the show also has some of the coolest episodes I've seen on TV. Like one of my favorite episodes is where the boys are playing World of Warcraft at the height of its popularity, and the crew were actually able to get assistance from Blizzard and make a weird type machinima type video within the game. And the trilogies like Imagination Land and Coon and Friends are hilarious trilogies that need to be seen by anyone. And the creators actually made a really good movie out of the show as well. The South Park movie, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. This movie actually went to theaters, and this movie is just fucking awesome, and is also just a hilarious musical as well. Looking back at it again, it's just a really good, really well written episode of the show, and it's probably the best theater adaptation of a cartoon ever, right up there with the first SpongeBob movie. So I like the show. I don't think it's bad. Actually, I think it's quite good. The only reason I made an earlier comment saying I don't really care for it that much is I haven't seen enough or a lot of it because my knowledge on South Park is very limited. I didn't grow up with South Park. I grew up with watching old episodes of The Simpsons, shitty mid-tier episodes of Family Guy, and fucking stupid Dragon Ball Z AMVs. I couldn't fit South Park into my schedule. They have been making new seasons every year since the late 90s, so forgive me, I haven't seen literally everything of like, what, almost like 300 episodes? Maybe I'll go back and watch those 20-something seasons after I'm done. South Park may be something I'm not that into that much, but I do respect it, and I mostly respect the creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker for the show. After watching the documentary 6 Days to Air, a documentary I highly suggest, you gain a better understanding of how talented these guys are, and the hell it is to make a deadline, and how South Park is probably the funniest, easiest, and shittiest job to work at. What makes it fun to work there is you can literally do whatever the fuck you want. There's like basically no rules. Sure, they may run into like some problems like standards and practices. You can't show fucking the Prophet Muhammad. Pretty much they let them get away with a lot of things. The easiest part is the show isn't really that difficult to actually create. South Park isn't the prettiest show, and it doesn't require a lot of actual skill to create. It's way easier than whatever the fuck Matt and Trey were doing before, where they're basically making stop motion cartoons with a pilot. It's made in Maya and can be easily manipulated and produced. The absolute garbage that comes with this though, you got 6 days. 6 days to produce a 22-minute cartoon. That's unheard of. First you gotta write the episode, then you gotta voice it, then you gotta master it, then you gotta add Foley, then sound effect, then storyboard, then animate, then lip sync, and go back and fix something with the animation. The episode isn't 22 minutes, so you gotta rewrite shit. Now you gotta go back and do more voices. Now you gotta go back and tell the crew, hey, I know that you're like kind of tired and you guys are kind of out of it, but you gotta animate a few more minutes. We got like 2 days left. Fucking people are literally sleeping within the office. There's no sleep, no exercise. Your body feels like shit because you just eat McDonald's burgers, but you feel like shit all the time, and time you're not gonna feel like shit is releasing this new episode, and you finally release the episode, and it's actually a pretty bad episode. You know it, the fans know it, it's not even that good of an episode, and you feel like shit for that already. You wrote a shitty episode, and you're just coming off feeling like a piece of shit, and you got like 12 more weeks to go, and then you got like 12 more episodes you gotta produce, you got 12 more times you gotta go through this stupid process. Fuck your family, fuck your social life, fuck playing Xbox. You're gonna make a fucking cartoon for 12 weeks, and you're gonna feel like shit doing it. This literally looks like torture, but they are completely content with doing this way. Mostly because the creators say it keeps them on their toes and gives them an opportunity to write about trending and new topics, which for the most part has worked out for them, except for a few annoyances. A lot of fans have been very critical of the newer seasons, mostly of what happened with season 20. Even the staff said, yeah, that fucking sucked. But I don't know, if it takes you like 20 seasons to where everyone within your fan base says, yeah, you ain't that fucking good anymore, I feel like that's a testament to the show's lasting quality. So if Matt and Trey ever just want to end their show, which is a possibility, they've seen outside success with many other avenues. If they ever just want to end the show one day and just lie in their gigantic empire for the rest of their lives, I feel like they have left a good legacy within the adult animation sphere and should look fondly on their creation as many fans do themselves.
Alright, see you again next week. Alright, you guys, thank you. 1 down, 6 to go.
Hey, that's the end of part 1 of this sort of network look back thing. I'm splitting these things into parts and might compile them into one big video when I'm done. I'm doing this so I can release videos faster and not leave for a long period of time. So expect part 2 sometime.